When two people love, they do it differently. One of them is strong and the other is weaker. And the one who is weaker always loves very much, without looking back, without measuring the cost. It's a reckless kind of love, the kind that doesn't hesitate or hold back, even when the world around them says they should. It's all in, all at once, as if the heart could somehow burst from the sheer intensity of its devotion. Katherine understood that kind of love. She had always been the one to give, to pour herself into someone else without counting the cost. Her love was a tidal wave, a rush of emotion that consumed her entirely, leaving little room for anything but the person she cared for. She loved deeply, obsessively, because she had never learned how to love any other way. For her, loving was all or nothing. There was no in between, no hesitation. But then there was Anne. Anne was different. She was older, wiser, and she wore her strength like a second skin. She had been through too much to love the way Katherine did, recklessly, without a thought for the consequences. Anne had learned to control her emotions, to guard her heart with the same fierce determination that had carried her through the years. She loved, of course, but she loved in a way that was deliberate, careful, as though she was always just a step ahead of her own feelings. She had built walls around her heart, not out of fear, but out of necessity. She knew that giving too much could lead to a kind of loss she wasn't sure she could survive. Katherine, though, loved in spite of everything. She loved with abandon, with a kind of purity that Anne had never known. It was as if Katherine's heart was an open book, each page written in ink that bled onto the next. She gave so much of herself, so freely, that it was impossible not to see the depth of her feelings. In some ways, it was a love that terrified Anne. How could someone so young, so unguarded, give so much without fear? But Anne had come to admire it too. She admired Katherine's vulnerability, the way she loved, without reservation, the way she let herself be consumed by it all. There was something raw and beautiful about the way Katherine loved, something that Anne had long ago buried within herself. Something she wasn't sure she could ever bring to the surface again. And strength lay in her ability to protect herself, to remain composed, but Katherine's strength lay in her willingness to risk everything for love. There were moments, quiet, fleeting moments, when Anne would catch Katherine looking at her, her eyes filled with such devotion that it almost felt like a wave. It was a devotion Anne didn't quite know how to return. Not in the same way. She loved Katherine, of course, but she couldn't love the way Katherine did, with that wild, untamed fierceness. It was both a gift and a burden, this kind of love. And yet, Katherine gave it expecting nothing in return but the smallest sign that Anne felt it too. And Anne did. She felt it in the way Katherine's hand would brush against hers, in the way she would lean into her just a little too much when they stood together, as if she couldn't help herself. It was a love so much bigger than anything Anne had ever known, and she couldn't help but be pulled into it. She couldn't resist Katherine's gravity. Anne opened her heart. She let Katherine into her heart and truly fell in love with Katherine. In that space between them, there was an unspoken understanding. Katherine's love was the kind that grew from vulnerability, from giving without holding back, while Anne's love was quieter, more restrained, but no less deep. Together, they created a love that was imperfect but real. A love where the one who gave too much could always find someone strong enough to hold her, even if she couldn't always give back in equal measure. But not because Anne loved less. No, she loved deeply. She just wasn't used to showing her feelings to anyone so freely. Anne had learned over time that sometimes the strongest love wasn't the one that held back, but the one that allowed itself to be given fully, even when it seemed too much. And Katherine, though she loved fiercely and without reservation, had come to understand that not all love had to be as consuming. In their differences, they found a balance one that neither could have imagined on their own, but that felt somehow quietly like everything they had both been searching for.